Hello, welcome back to the Live Rally Games podcast. My name is Steven, and I'm here with more Surviving Reelfoot content of their most recent season, Unfinished Business. We did part one of this interview, and here we are with part two of the interview. Tony, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me for a second part. I brought a second pet instead of the first pet for the second part of the interview. So this time we have Lily joining us.
Hi, Lily. Now, if you're in a loved ones challenge and to bring out Lily, or I forget your cat's name,
Jack,
which of the two are you gonna call for the loved ones challenge?
Oh my God, that's a hard. I think Lily. She gives better kisses.
It's a good criteria. So when we last left off talking, we about finished the pre-merge, and we're at the morning of day 5, which leads us to the earn the merge portion. But just a brief recap: how are you feeling morning of day 5, and who do you feel your tightest alliances with?
All right. So the morning of day 5, we did not know what was going on. A lot of us thought that we were going into a second swap.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, I feel like I was really psyched because I'd made it through the first swap. And if you remember from last time, that was kind of my unfinished business. If I can make it through that first swap, then I've done better than I've ever done in an org or an LRG, right? That first swap always seems to mess me up. And so I was really excited. I'm still feeling like my group is, there's just the 6 of us, right? And, I feel like my group is still my 2 guys, right? Sharif and Carlos. And, but I'm feeling really good about Austin. And I'm feeling really good about Megan at this point. And I love Sky, but I feel like, she's probably the one that's going to go next anyway. Not that that's what I would want, but, I felt good about our 6.
Is there any individuals in the other tribe you're looking at like, hey, these are people I think I might be able to work with in a swap or merge scenario?
Yeah, definitely at that point, I'm thinking I could work with Todd because I know Megan's been working with Todd. I'm working with Adam because I know this, same thing, and Brent. So I'm really looking forward to them coming around. But at the same time, I'm also thinking to myself, I really could see myself working with Amber. And I've kind of got that in the back of my mind saying there's a path there if it works. And that's kind of where my head was.
So what you learn that morning, or I guess whenever you go to the challenge arena, is that you are almost at merge. You just have to earn the merge. And to earn the merge, you have to compete in one of 3 challenges: a memory challenge, a dexterity challenge, or a endurance challenge. And if you win the challenge, you made it. You're in the merge. If you're not, you're going to tribal council. So how does this go for you?
It was so bad in my head, like so bad, because I'm like, I just know this is when I'm going to F it up. I'm just this is going to be the end of my game. I was absolutely sure, and I knew that the draw, like getting the number that I wanted, was going to be critical, and I almost got my number last. But I looked at the 3 things and I said, well, there's an endurance, and typically that's what I do well with is endurance challenges. But that's going to suck because it's an endurance challenge. And I can think of the number of people that do well at endurance challenges, and I'm probably not the top half of that group. Right. But then there's, throwing beanbags, which I suck at. And there's memory, which I suck at. So I was like, I'm going to have to do this endurance challenge. And it's really just going to depend on who I'm doing it against. And then it turned out like even worse because I'm doing it against Todd and Brent and Carlos. And I mean, I know Todd and Brent and Carlos are like 3 monsters when it comes to endurance challenges. So I'm really not feeling like my chances are very good.
So the challenge is you're going to be putting consecutive more wooden dowels together and have to keep pressure against them to make sure all of them stay together.
Yeah.
So how does this challenge then go for you?
Well, interestingly enough, before the challenge, Carlos comes up to me and he goes, I think I'm going to throw the challenge. I'm like, why would you do that? Like, I don't understand. He's like, and I said to him, should I throw the challenge? Like, is there a plan here? Like, should I be doing something? He goes, no, you're fine. I'm like, okay, whatever. So now I'm like, oh, well, my chances are better if he's going to throw the challenge, which I don't know that he's going to do. He might. Then I just have to beat Todd and Brent. I didn't know about the whole throw the challenge thing, which, it's a good thing I won. But I'm sitting there and when we're doing our thing and we get a little bit in, and I think Carlos went through the first cycle of the first 3, and then I think he threw it when there were 4. So then we're sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to do this. It's going to go on and on and on forever. And Brent drops. And it like didn't register for me that he dropped, right? And what that meant for like 2 or 3 seconds, which seemed like an hour. And then all of a sudden they're like, congratulations, you made the merge. And I was like, and I was just like, fuck yeah. I was so happy. I was out of my mind. And then the first thing I thought was, oh crap, Brent. Brent may or may not make the merge. Now he's got to go to tribal council. So like I was so happy to like so stressed out and full of anxiety for him.
So you and Todd win the endurance challenge, and you're joined by Austin, Carly, Sharif, Skylar, and Taylor, I believe.
Not Taylor. Taylor also.
Oh, not Taylor. Sorry, Josh.
Josh. Yeah. So Todd and I win. They usher us into the house, sit us down at the couch, and I'm like, hey, Todd, let's start talking. Let's start working, right? Because this is the first time that he and I have an opportunity to get together. And he's like, yeah. And he downloads with me, and I download with him. And we're like, yeah, we're solid. We're definitely going to work together. Right in front of us is that damn snake puzzle, which was, the challenge previously. I start picking up and start playing with it and trying to finish it. Little do I know that ends up being, important later on in the game. And little did Todd know it'd also be important that he did not pick it up or try to play with it when he had an opportunity to then. But I was trying to put it together and figure out if I could do that snake puzzle. So then they bring us out and it's pouring rain and they're like, woohoo, you made the merge. And I'm like looking at all the people that didn't make the merge, but I'm thrilled that, Sharif made the merge. I think that was like the most important thing to me at that moment was knowing that Sharif was going to continue on there with me because he was my number 1.
So looking at the people who didn't make the merge, you have Megan, Carlos, Amber, Reynolds, Adam, Brent, and Taylor. Was there much? Did you have any idea who's going to be voted out, or was there a person you wanted to see voted out from that group?
Who was? I don't think I thought a lot about who I wanted to get voted out. I just didn't want. I didn't want Brent getting voted out.
How was the rest of your time in Mergatory with other winners?
It was cute. It was fun. It was boring. It would be, we went to Old Red and sat around and talked and laughed and, had a good time. And Todd obviously went back and forth looking for idols. And, I kind of looked a little bit, but I didn't think they were going to have an idol there for us. Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. I don't think there was.
Well, you're reunited with the survivors of that tribal council. And you learned that Brent, the one person you didn't want to go home, was voted out.
Yeah, I was upset, but I didn't want to come across as upset because I didn't know who voted which way yet, and I didn't want to piss anybody off, and I didn't want to show my cards. But the most important thing that I wanted to do at that point was reconnect with Taylor because we had been red together, and we had said, we're good together, we want to play together, let's work together. And I wanted to hear her story about what happened with Lydia vote. And I tried to connect with her, like on that walk to camp. She would not look at me, would not talk to me. And I'm like, well, obviously we're not working together because she's not even trying to reconnect with me. And so what I thought I had, somebody who I could work with, clearly I didn't.
So let's see. So from your original Red Tribe, you feel good about Carlos, you feel good about Sharif.
Yep.
And then Taylor's the only other person from your original Red Tribe, and she's
blowing me off. Yeah.
She's blowing you off. Yeah. What did you hear from other people about that Brent Tribal Council?
Then I got the details of the Brent thing, and that there was an idol, and that it just ended up being really unfortunate for him. But what I did hear was, had I lost, it probably would have been me.
Really? Why?
So I don't know. For the same reason was Brent. I mean, Brent thought, people were kind of told, hey, we want to get Brent out because he's close to Tony. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me, but okay. But I mean, it's the same reason as getting May or Skylar out because they're close to each other. There's so many people that are close. Why are we picking on certain bonds? But yeah, I heard it would be me, and maybe because the whole beginning of the game with Taylor, maybe she wanted me out.
So you then proceed to have your merge feast. How was that for you?
It was sucky merge feast, man. That was just the worst merge feast. Holy crap! I'm like waiting. I mean, they had a great taco one on my first season, and then there was a great breakfast merge feast when I was a tribe handler, and then we got like, blech, not good food, right? But I'll tell you, hold on, let's go back. We're walking into the old Carlton, the good camp, right? And it was a different path. It looked like hell. I'm like, holy crap, there's a lot of work to do here to even set up camp. And they throw some food down. And I mean, already there's just people all over the place having conversations, reconnecting, just talking about stuff. And I don't feel like no one's really coming to me to talk about anything except for after I, pick out my food pretty quickly. I was apparently this close to the secret idol clue, like reached in my hand touched the clue. I ate some bread, which was delicious, by the way. But then Sharif gets the secret idol clue. And then eventually he comes and tells me about it. But apparently lots of people saw him get it anyway, so it didn't matter. Not a great clue, because I don't know if you've already heard, but this part of the clue says, beyond, there's like some X, and past the X, there's going to be an idol. Well, the X was apparently a couple of sticks on the ground in the form of an X. And since we're all looking for campfire wood, people are just picking up the sticks, even if they're in the shape of an X. So apparently they had to keep laying this X down again and again. And it wasn't a good strategy. Not a good strategy for hiding an idol.
Well, you mentioned one of the things you wanted to do in the merge is reconnect with Taylor. That's not happening. What are your other priorities?
Connect with the people that I had not played with yet. So, I'm trying to spend time with the people on yellow. So I hadn't spent any time with Adam per se. So I wanted to make sure, I'm connecting with Adam, and again, connecting with Todd. I wanted to connect with Amber. And so I did a little bit of that, but it felt like super weird and uncomfortable for me. Maybe because of my leftover anxiety about Brent getting voted out. I kind of felt like my group was on the bottom at that point, and I really needed to find the idol. So I spent a lot of time in that first period looking for the idol.
So then you go to your first immunity challenge, and this immunity challenge, you're stacking blocks up in a rising tower, and you have to keep them steady. How was this? And
I just did that, but this way instead of this way. I'm like, you making me do an endurance challenge again. Yeah. So we did the same. We did stack blocking this way instead of stack holding this way. It's fine. It was, and I did all right. I didn't win, but I felt like, and again, my strategy was to try not to win, because in my first game, I remember when they did the, what's it called when the final three walk along and talk about all the people.
Fallen Comrades.
Yeah. So they do Fallen Comrades, and the comment that Anessa has about me is, "Wow, Tony was really nice, and he was really good at challenges. He was really a threat to win had he made it past the merge." And I'm like, really, I don't want I can't be nice and I can't win challenges because I don't want people voting me out for those reasons. So I wanted to do well enough in challenges to help my team, but not so well that people wanted to get rid of me because of it. So I was always happy to not win challenges.
This is your first time being in the same tribe with Amber and Reynolds together, right?
Yes.
So what are so you said your interaction with that duo, they're kind of not talking too much?
Oh, no. Amber, no, Taylor's not talking to me. But Amber and Reynolds are talking to me. And so I don't know that I don't remember having a conversation specifically with them that particular round because it was kind of quick. That's when the whole Taylor thing happened, right?
Yeah. So Josh and Todd win individual immunity, and soon after, Taylor has a real life emergency, asked to be voted out instead of quitting the game, and there's a tribal council for Taylor to be voted out. Anything you want to say about this?
Yes. So before that tribal council, I told you I was feeling antsy about Taylor already, and so The first people back to camp, so we didn't even all get back to camp before they said come back, right? So, but Skylar and Carly, I believe it was Skylar and Carly and I had all gotten back to camp, and I had tossed out Taylor's name saying, let's go for Taylor. And they're both totally on board with it. So I was trying to make play for Taylor to go anyway. So when I heard, oh, Taylor's going, I'm like, well, that's what I wanted anyway. So that's fine with me.
So Taylor was your ideal merge boot?
Absolutely for me. Okay. I don't think she was never, ever going to be part of my game. She never tried to be part of my game, never tried to work with me. So I think it's best to get those people out.
Did you think that anyone would throw their vote going in the tribal council, or you thought it would just be a complete unanimous vote on Taylor?
I thought it would be a unanimous vote. Why wouldn't it be? Like, that didn't make any sense, right?
So Taylor goes home 11-1. Sheath casts a no vote, essentially, and there's a rogue vote for Skylar in the mix.
Sure. Why? I don't know.
Yeah. So how is everything back at camp that evening with the 12-person now merged tribe?
I think I'm feeling better because Taylor's gone, and that made one less person that's not on my side that make me feel a little more comfortable. It was just a lot. It felt very us and themy at the camp, and
really that fast.
Yeah, to me it really did. It felt like there was a group that went. So first of all, Todd and Sharif and Megan and I and I think Adam, some people helped put up the tarp and clean out everything and make a nice campsite, and some people slept under the tarp, and it wasn't anybody that put up the tarp.
So it's Reelfoot's own version of what beach versus shelter groups.
100%. So the beach group made the shelter, then slept on the beach.
So who was the them to? Like, look, like, because it sounds like as kind of lines are being drawn, who's opposed to you at this point that you feel?
Who was back in the back? I mean, Reynolds and Amber, right? And I guess Carly. I know Josh and Adam. I'm trying to think back, right? Josh and Adam slept near me. Todd sleeps off by himself. Sharif slept sort of near me. Megan was near me. Was Austin? I think Austin started under the tarp and moved out from under the tarp. So I guess everybody else was under the tarp.
So Carlos, Amber, Reynolds, Carly.
Yeah, I guess that sounds right.
Okay.
And Skylar, right?
And Skylar, yeah. And so who, like, as you're kind of thinking of who that you want to target next, is there any names that are coming to mind?
I'm feeling like the right two people to get rid of next are Reynolds and Amber, in that order.
So the next morning you have your second individual meeting challenge. Do you compete in this challenge, or do you set out for food?
I sat out for food. Now, okay. I was kicking myself for doing it, but I felt like I didn't feel like there was a lot of pressure on, or anyone looking at me to get me out immediately. For some reason, I didn't feel that way. But as soon as I sat out, I was regretting it until the vote happened.
So do you wish you had gone and competed anyways, even knowing the outcome?
I mean, knowing the outcome, it was good that I sat out because then we got the food. So that was better.
So let's see. So Skylar and Austin win immunity.
Yeah.
And so at what point do you start hearing Josh as a name being thrown around?
I was just told Josh.
Okay.
Sharif tells me it's going to be Josh. Like, it wasn't a question. It wasn't what do I want? It's going to be Josh next. That's what we're doing. I'm like, all right. So clearly you're not asking me, you're like, Sharif's not debating anything with me anymore. It's just I'm being told what to vote.
Okay. And so how are you feeling about the Josh vote then?
It's fine. I didn't have any specific plans with Josh, so okay.
Are you worried that, like, because you kind of said, like, hey, us versus them, and the them you're talking about, Josh isn't part of that them.
No, he's not, but there's a pattern here where people from the us keep getting voted out. Like, Yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense to me why Josh, but again, as long as it's not me at that point.
Did you know Austin was being left out of the vote?
No, I didn't. I mean, I might as well have been left out of the vote. I was just told at the end where to vote.
Okay. So the vote ends up being a 10-1-1, where Josh gets 10 votes and Amber and Reynolds both get a vote apiece.
No, I'm lying. I did know Austin because apparently Austin and Josh were friends, and I couldn't tell Austin about Josh.
Because you mentioned when we spoke last, like your time in the swap tour together, you and Austin were really starting to form a friendship or alliance. And so, like, were you thinking at all to tell Austin anyways, or just like, hey, I was told not to tell him, so it's not happening?
No, I was trying to be super loyal to Sharif. So whatever he said to do, I was trying to stay absolutely loyal to that.
So Josh goes home. And then you have your next mini challenge, which is the slingshot challenge.
Oh God, it's so embarrassing. Because I guess I got my one, and then I got another, and I couldn't get a third. It took over an hour. How embarrassing that whole thing was. And for me, the problem was they kept moving us. So whatever I learned about how to shoot it a certain direction or how like I'd have to relearn the next time they'd move us and then relearn again. And so I never learned how to get it or how to win immunity. So I didn't win.
So Austin and Sharif win this challenge.
Yep.
Talk to me about the strategy of this round, because you mentioned like, hey, I'm seeing two sides form, and this is the vote where we really have these two sides emerge against each other.
Okay, so who gets voted out this one?
So this is the Adam vote, and this is when you don't go back to camp, I believe.
Oh, holy moly. This is the most confusing. Yes. All right. So I think I'm told it's going to be Sky. Okay. So, and it's going to be easy. Is this the one where we're saying it's going to be easy? It's going to be Skylar. Don't worry about it. Right. So we're kind of in the area where they're, the holding area, right? So and it's just this weird, you're around the barn and you're on one of the sides of the barn and, you're going to talk to whoever you can talk to. And I'm pretty sure we had said it's going to be Sky. Don't worry, don't make a big deal out of it. And all of a sudden Adam comes to me in like a panic and like, swear to God, don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone, he says. I'm like, what? I'm not going to tell anyone. What? He's like, I'm going to vote Megan. And I'm like, where did that come from? What universe did Megan's name pop out of? Why are you voting for Megan? No clue. Right over my head. I'm so far gone out of the conversations apparently that I have no idea what's going on. And I'm like, Megan, I don't know. It doesn't sound like the vote that I want to make. Like I've been kind of talking to Megan a little bit saying, like, I feel like she's in my final four. Like I want to go far with her. Why are we voting Megan? What's the deal? Like, and so I round the corner and there's, Reynolds and Amber and Amber comes to me and she's like, Tony, this is it. So I've been having some conversations with Amber before this saying, listen, I feel like I'm kind of on the bottom of my group. They're not telling me what's going on. They're not asking me what's going on. She's like, Tony, you need to come over to our group. And I'm like, kinds of sounds good. And she's like, Tony, this is the time. Come on over. Vote with us. You got to let me know. And I'm like, I'm really struggling. And so at that point, I was really, really struggling. Like, will I vote Megan with them or will I not? And she's like, but you have to tell me. And I'm like, I said, Amber, if I'm honest with you, this vote, and I don't work with you, it doesn't mean I don't want to work with you in the future. But if I'm honest with you, does that help? Does that keep us? She's like, yes. As long as you're honest with me, then we can still possibly work together in the future, even if it's not this time. So I told her, I'm not going to vote with you this time on Megan. I'm not going to do it. So, as far as my head was concerned, it was still supposed to be Skylar that I was voting for.
And was Skylar a person you wanted to see go home?
No. But I'm trying to do what I'm told to do, right? I said, I'm trying to be loyal and honest because apparently I'd gotten some reputation for not being honest, which I was, fanning the fire on. But, I wanted to show that I was, being a good soldier.
And like you said before, was Amber or Reynolds one of those two the vote you'd like to put? You would have liked to see happen?
I would have liked to, because I'm like, why are they getting to go further and further in this game when clearly they're not? They don't want Sharif in the final. They don't want Megan in the final. They don't want me in the final. Why is Todd? Why are we letting them get further?
And did you ever like? Because you mentioned like your relationship with Sharif in that merge tribe as you were really going back and forth with each other and really like doing a lot of strategy stuff together, and that's kind of gone away. Did Megan just simply supplant that, and she was having that with him instead? You think?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And so, as a result of this vote, so what happens at this vote, right? We get there, we're sitting down, and I'm like counting in my head. And I get up and I go whisper to, I think it was Sharif first. And I'm like, they're gonna idle out someone. I don't remember what I think they're gonna idle out Megan or something like that is what I was saying. And they're like, no, calm down. I'm like, no. And like I caused like a whole whispering thing going on, right? And apparently that caused them to change their vote to Adam. I don't know exactly what happened, because everyone was like, settle down, Tony, you're fine, sit down. I sat down, and at that point, using some sign language, Sharif communicates, okay, well, now we're going to put our votes somewhere else on Reynolds, right? And Carlos is told about that, and Carlos uses his hat signal to let Reynolds know that he's going to get voted out, so he needs to use use the idol on himself. And so that's how Adam gets voted out.
Yeah. Austin says he changed the vote to Adam right before the tribe walked the tribal council.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, so it was locked in. It sounds like it was locked in to Adam. The question is who your side was voting for.
Right, exactly.
And so,
yeah, because they never could have made it Megan, because if they thought I thought it was Megan, then they couldn't vote Megan. So they had to change it to someone else.
So Adam ends up going home in a 5-5-1 where Reynolds plays his idol successfully, negating 5 votes. So there's 5 votes for Reynolds negated, 5 votes for Adam, and you end up still voting for Skylar because the memo just doesn't get to you in time, right?
Yes, which is then the topic of discussion. I go up to Sharif and I'm like, Sharif, that's it. He's like, Tony, you got too excited. You messed up the vote. I'm like, that's because you're not telling me what's going on. You have stopped talking to me. He's like, no, you knew exactly what was going on. You knew we were going to. He's like, I didn't know any of it. None of it. He's like, really? I'm like, really? You have stopped keeping me included in anything. I'm literally just taking a name from you and voting. And whatever relationship we had is fast dwindling because you've stopped including me in any of these conversations. And I was pissed at him. And I really let him have it. But, we worked it out. But I said, at that point, you have completely abandoned having conversations with me and making me your number one. You're back to Megan, which is why in Final Tribal I said you stole my boyfriend.
Well, that was thought. Oh, okay. You said that to Megan.
I said that to Megan in Final Tribal.
Gotcha. Okay. So what was the what else was the fallout coming out of this tribal council where you have now potentially a 5-5?
All right. So is the next vote Sky?
Next vote Skylar.
All right. So this is when I really had to do something. I had to show that I had some when I'm making the moves, I had to show that I'm doing something. I'm not just a pawn anymore. That I'm actually making a move. And I said to Carlos, because Carlos is in this conversation with Sharif, I said, Carlos, Sharif, if I pretend to flip to the other side, will you trust me? Will you trust me? And I'm having literally a panic attack at this point. And they're like, yes, we'll trust you. All right. We're all walking back to camp. I'm the last one going back to camp. I'm like freaking out. I'm starting to cry. I'm like shaking. I'm getting really upset. I have I'm talking to the camera, confessional, and the tribe handler is asking me, so what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. I've got, I could go with this one side and I could flip and I could work with that side, or I could stay with the side I'm on and I could stay loyal and go with, Carlos and Sharif to the end, just like I always planned that I wanted to do. And I was literally freaking out. And the interviewer just said, what do you want? What does your heart tell you want to do? And I said, I want What I want to do is to stay with Sharif and Carlos. That's like what I said at the beginning I wanted to do. And I wanted to stay true to that more than anything in the world. And he says, and he answers me back and he says, then make it happen. Find a way to make it happen. And I was like, how do I make it happen? So on my way back into camp, I see Megan get an idol.
Mm-hmm.
I see Megan actually finding the idol, and like, she's like, shh, I found the idol. I'm like, I know, no, I'm not gonna say anything. So I'm like, okay, if Megan has an idol, that means we can idol somebody out.
Mm-hmm.
So we can idol somebody out. All I need to do is make sure we know who they're voting for.
Mm-hmm.
How do I make sure we know who they're voting for? I have to pretend to flip. So I'm like, I'm freaking out. I'm crying. You know, I don't want to talk to anybody because I mean, this panic attack I had was real.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what are the tools I have in my belt right now? I'm like, I'm crying. I'm having a panic attack. I know that there's an idol out there. What can I do? I can flip. And so Austin comes to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes to me and he's comforting me. He's like, Tony, I'll take care of you. I'm like literally having goosebumps right now because he made me feel so warm, and he's an amazing person, by the way. He earned my vote to win in this interaction.
Mm-hmm.
He made me feel so comforted and welcome. He says, whatever you need to happen, we'll make it happen. And I said, okay, this is what needs to happen. The only way I'm going to trust you is if you guys vote out Todd next. It has to be Todd next. And that way I guaranteed, Todd was going to be next. And so crying, I'm really upset about it right now, by the way. I went to Sharif and I told him what I did. And I told him it was going to be Todd. And he told me, and I said, and you gotta use the idol. And then he told me, okay, we're going to vote Sky. And I'm like, again, why Sky? But whatever you guys want. And I'm literally broken at that point because it hurt me to the core to lie to Austin, who had just been so freaking amazing to me. And I did it because it was a game. And I know that everybody knows it's a game and you got to just play it like it's a game. So that's why I did what I did, to make sure that we knew who the vote was going to be on. And then we could idle out Sky.
When you played your first season, did you feel as emotionally invested in that game as you did in this game?
Not even the tiniest bit, because I didn't know those people. I love these people at Reelfoot. Like, they're my family. And to vote out anybody is painful because they're like my core. They make me happy, right? And to cut off anyone's game is like cutting off your family. It's really, really tough.
And so, had you anticipated having such strong emotions in the game? Was that something you had prepared for coming into the game, or it was kind of out of surprise that it had this effect on you?
It was a huge surprise. It was an absolute huge surprise. I mean, I knew I was going to have a tough time voting out friends. I didn't know that I was going to have such a panic attack, crying, upset. There's video of it. All of that is real.
And so, looking at your decision in hindsight 2020, do you feel like that was the best decision to make for your game? So,
yeah, I don't regret anything that I did in the game because it got me to 6th place, and I was very happy at 6th place. So, so much better than I ever could have possibly imagined. Was that the best thing for my game? Yes, because I don't want to change anything about my game.
So you tell Sharif and Megan and Co. that the vote is on them, and at Tribal Council, Meg goes up. When she plays the idol, she says, Carlos, Tony, Sharif, and I'm blanking on one other person, Todd. Like, it's us 5 to the final 5. I'm playing for this for Todd. 5 votes are negated, and Skylar goes home.
Yep.
So, talk to me about heading back to camp after this challenge, or after this Tribal Council.
I don't remember the walk back because I think I don't remember the walk back. Again, you know what? I must have. It must have been very emotional with Austin and me it must have been a complete wreck at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. I might even be blocking it.
So the next immunity challenge, this is the one where you're stacking up the birdies, whatever you shoot with shotguns. I forget.
Oh, yeah. The clay pigeons.
The clay pigeons. There we go. You're stacking
More
the pigeons.
standing there and stacking things, but yes.
Yeah. How was the challenge for you?
I did really well. I got right to the end. And I put like the 20 whatever fifth one on top. So I definitely broke, joined in breaking whatever the record was. And I fell off balance just a little. I fell back a little bit. And as I fell back, my foot came off the block and I recovered, but instead of putting my foot back on the block, I put it on the ground and I was out. So, I was happy that I did really well, lasted a long time. I was never going to beat Todd in that challenge. That man's arms are this big. He can hold, more than 25 of those clay pigeons.
So now that your alliance is the upper hand with 9 people left, who would you talk to me about the strategy coming back at camp?
It's supposed to be Reynolds and Amber now. Like literally that's what's supposed to happen. I mean, who is next, by the way?
Sharif goes out. You vote for Carly.
Okay. That's because they have an idol, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, so what happens is
why we vote for Carly, I don't know. Why aren't we going for Amber and Reynolds? I don't know. It's probably because Carlos is not letting us vote for them. Because we still haven't figured out that he's the mole, right?
Are you talking to Amber Reynolds at all anymore? You mentioned that, final 11, they're saying, hey, come to us. I mean, you vote against, you leak the information, vote against them at final 10. At final 9, are those avenues cut off or there's still communication?
We're still talking. They're not really presenting to me a plan that's going to get me further to the end, right? So I don't really feel like, other than them just saying, hey, keep us, that's not really a plan, right? So I'm not going to go with, hey, just keep me for the sake of keeping me.
Anything else you want to talk about the strategy for this round?
No.
Well, so Carly has an idol played for her by Amber after she plays her shot in the dark, and Sharif goes home with 3 votes.
And it was either going to be Sharif or me, right? So boy, am I glad I had my meat shield in front of me.
Yeah, because since Megan and Todd were immune, that left you, Sharif, and
Carlos.
Carlos, yeah.
And so, it wasn't going to be Carlos.
Yeah, so it was you or Sharif, I guess.
It was me or Sharif, and I'm glad I had my meat shield in front of me.
So this is the end of day 6. You just lost one of your biggest allies, even though did you feel like that previous round he was strategizing more, keeping more in the loop? Do you feel like that was starting to happen?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
honestly.
So how are you feeling end of day 6 at final 8?
I feel like I'm back having conversations with Austin, and I'm feeling like there's an Austin, Megan, Carly, Tony thing kind of forming for a final 4 in my mind. But Megan's not going to let go of Todd. I think at this point I want to get rid of Todd. That's probably something I should have gotten out of my head. Like, why am I wanting to get rid of Todd? He's he is winning challenges, but it's not the winning of challenges that's keeping me from moving forward. So I'm not sure why I wanted to get rid of him. Maybe it was just something I had stuck in my head.
So with Sharif being gone, did the tone or tenure of your alliance with Megan and Todd change at all?
Not with Todd at all. But with Megan, we started to get closer. We started to talk a lot more because she had lost her Sharif, as I had lost my Sharif. So I don't feel like we ever got as close as the 2 of them had been. But I felt like, because she's probably that close with Todd, even though I don't know that. So I felt like I was talking to her more. She and I spent a lot of time together at night next to the fire, trading off, who's going to be tending the fire. She always did the lion's share of that work, but I tried to keep up and help out as much as I could. And I felt like we were bonding a little bit more. I did it that in my mind, she was in my final four.
Mm-hmm. So could you rank?
We still thought it was going to be a fire making final four. Like we thought that's where the whole game was going, to a final four with fire making. So it wasn't like insulting to say final four, but not final three, because we thought final four would be like, that's, when somebody was going to have to make fire, right?
So could you rank me the other 7 members of the merged tribe of order of importance to your game at this point? Like most, and I can read through, I can list the names one more time.
Yes, so, please.
We have Austin, Megan, Todd, Carly, Carlos, Amber, and Reynolds.
I think Austin and Carlos were at the top together, going in opposite directions. So Austin's going up and Carlos is going down, but they're both at the top together at that point, right? And then I would say I felt much closer to Carly. And I wanted to work with her. I would say Carly and Megan next, again, going in opposite directions, right? So Carly going up, Megan going down. Then, honestly, probably Todd, Amber, Reynolds.
So so talk about the relationship with Carlos at this point. I mean, you kind of talked about coming in the merge was you, Sharif, Carlos, that you felt the tightest with that group of 3. Why is Carlos kind of tilting down for you and Austin's moving up?
I think at this point we knew there was a mole, right? So I think Amber had said there's a mole. Somebody's telling you, oh yeah, that is when happened. So, oh my God, we're sitting there at tribal council, right? And this is when we're voting for Carly. Yeah. And basically Todd's right behind Amber and leans over to me and says, who are we voting for? Carly? Is it Carly? I'm like, you're whispering Carly's name behind Amber at tribal council asking you who you're voting for? Is that really how you play this game? No, that's not how you play this game. So whatever. I thought the mole was just Todd talking loud in front of Amber, and she knows it's going to be Carly, right? But on the way back, Carlos and I did have a conversation, and I'm like piecing it out, and he's like, I feel like, Carlos, you might be the mole. He's like, Tony, I don't know what to tell you. Tony, I don't know what to tell you. So he's not denying it, but he's not admitting it either. So I'm kind of feeling like Carlos is the mole at that point, which is why he's going down.
Yeah, Carlos says Amber after tribal said someone definitely said something.
Yeah, I know, definitely.
And so, looking at this group of 8, then who is your ideal next vote looking to be?
I'm still thinking Reynolds.
So, do you have an idea? Do you have final 2, final 3 plans kind of set up?
Yeah, at that point, I'm feeling like, because Carlos is going down in my mind, I would have liked final 4: Megan, Austin, Carly, me.
And were you talking to those other players saying, "Hey, us as a 4, let's get there"?
Yeah, I was. And I feel like Austin and Carly were open to that. I feel like Megan was, she's not going to let go of Todd, but maybe I could be in her final 5, right?
How are you? So, I mean, you're at final 8. There's still plenty of time before the jury and present your case. But in your mind, how are you kind of constructing your story you want to pitch the jury?
Oh, I am absolutely not in my head thinking I'm anywhere close to being in the final 3.
Okay.
I never at any point in this game envisioned myself being actually in the final 3. I wanted to be, but remember, 17th place, right? I was 17th place. Getting to final 8 was like cool, And I'm like, I'm sleeping here another night. This is awesome. This is the best game in the whole wide world. So I was just grateful for every tribal I got past, and not thinking that I'm really going to make it to the final 3.
Especially given we just saw you just went through 3 tribals in a row where 3 idols were played successfully, and you have these potential 2 alliances going head and head.
Yeah, it's just, I just didn't feel super comfortable, right? I didn't feel like I was anyone's target at that point, but I definitely saw myself getting to 6 or 5.
So how was that? How was night 6 for you?
Not then. I mean, just it was a very long night of firewood and cold. You know.
So you make it to day 7,
Yeah.
and you open up with an auction. How was this for you?
So I knew at the auction that there was going to be a lot of stuff, and I right at the outset said, I am not going to buy a cheeseburger or anything that's going to make me feel sick. So the first thing they put up was peanut butter and apples. I'm the only person, I think, or maybe somebody else put in. I think I had to pay like $15 for this amazing heap of peanut butter and like one apple cut up. And I spent the entire auction eating that lump of peanut butter very, very slowly, just to make sure it didn't hurt my stomach. It was so delicious. I like sucked the juice out of a couple slices of the apples, but I didn't eat them because I didn't want the roughage to hurt my stomach. I mean, I was being super careful. I do know when Carly got her onion, I kind of thought I saw paper in there. I don't know why I didn't think about it, but I didn't.
So let's see. This next round, talking about the strategy, because you end. Oh, go ahead.
So we're on the way back, right, from the auction, right? And I guess we go back to camp. We do go back to camp at this point, right?
Probably.
Probably. And so again, I'm trailing, and I've got it in my head that there's an idol at camp, and it's probably right at the beginning of the trail back to camp. I don't know why it was in my head that way, but there's this kind of really cool tree that had kind of fallen across the path. And I said, I would absolutely hide the idol up in and around that tree. So we go back, and poor Carly, she kind of made like she was puking. I didn't really actually think she was puking. I thought she was faking. And she was faking because I guess she had gotten a clue to the hidden immunity idol back at camp, which was, as I thought, right there at the beginning of right. And so I'm looking all over near the tree, and right near the tree, there's these boards that kind of go across what was a muddy area. And there's a set of 2 boards and then another set of 2 boards. And I flip over the first set of 2 boards, and I'm like, oh, it's not there. I'm going to look under the other set, and Carly's standing on top of them. And she just looks at me and says, well, I'm just, I've got to stay here watching you because everyone else is back at camp. So I'm going to keep my eye on you. I'm like, I'm being babysat. Okay. So I keep looking for the idol, and Carlos comes. I think it was Carlos comes, and he starts looking. So I kind of move where he is, and she kind of moves over where we are. And as soon as I guess I'm far enough, she runs back, flips over the other boards, and grabs the idol. Gosh, this is the second idol I was right on top of that I didn't get. I knew exactly where to look. So mad.
So I don't.
Oh no, this didn't happen. Oh no, that did happen then. There's just a couple of votes before I go. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. So I think the immunity challenge is the one Carlos wins. I think this is the one where you run back and forth a lot and everyone's throwing up.
Holy crap. Yeah, that was a hard one. It was like 90 million degrees, 3,000% humidity. I started out.
Carlos has a guy. Carlos notes, if you want to find idol, Toto's your best friend. Follow him around, and he'll be right next to it.
100% Carlos. Just follow me and look wherever I'm not looking.
Yeah. Back to the challenge.
So back to the challenge, sweating our butts off. I started out doing pretty well. I just, like everybody else, I started losing that. I just got all of them confused in my head, and I ended up not winning the challenge. Again, not feeling like I super have to win the challenges to keep going, but I didn't win.
So, were you willing to go the rocks for your alliance?
Is this the time that Megan's like, are you willing to go to rocks?
This is when the first vote's a 4-4, right?
Right. So this is the time, yes, that they're like, are you willing to go to rocks? Like, willing to go to rocks. And Megan hasn't super committed to me, right? She hasn't said to me, yes, we're in this. I agree to your plan. And I look her in the face and I say, no, I'm not willing to go. I'm not willing to commit to go to rocks for you because it's not in the best interest of my game to potentially, save her and have me go home when I have a lot of other avenues. Like I can still work with Amber and Reynolds. I can still work with a bunch of people. I'm not cut off from working with people, and I'm not going to cut myself off by going to rocks for you. I'm not going to do it. And so I told Carlos, I said, Carlos, if it goes this way, if we tie, I'm not going to rocks. I am definitely going to flip my next vote so that we don't go to rocks. And I was certain about that. I won't go to rocks for Megan. It's not worth it to me. I have too many other avenues to keep moving ahead. So then we are walking to Tribal, and I'm talking to Carly and Austin, and they're like, we are going to stick with voting against me. So who did they vote for?
So it ends up being 4 votes Reynolds, 4 votes Megan.
Okay, so Megan. So they're going to vote for Megan. And they said on the revote, we will flip. We'll vote with you, Tony, to vote out Reynolds. I said, no, it's got to be on the first vote. I'm not going to trust you unless you do it on the first vote. And they both, and I was very insistent about it. And they said, all right, we'll do it on the first vote. And this is like, we're like lining up, like we're there with our torches. And this is what's happening, right? I said, no, it can't be on the revote. It has to happen on the first vote. So the first vote ties. And I don't know who voted for who, but that tells me some people did not do what they told me they were going to do. And all I know for certain is that I told people that I was going to flip on the second vote, which means that they're counting on me to flip on the second vote because they want it to go to rocks. Because Amber wants it to go to rocks. Because without Reynolds, she feels like, I'm guessing, it's better for her game to go to rocks and potentially stay than to lose Reynolds, right? But for me, it's not worth it to go to rocks. I'm like, there's too many people in this game where going to rocks is better for their game than worse. So the only way I have any power is I don't do what I said I was going to do. I said I was going to flip, so I'm not going to flip. And I'm like talking this out to like literally in the voting booth, talking this out to the camera saying, all right, I'm not going to do what I said. They're not going to do what they said. And I'm like talking it through. I start writing down Reynolds. And I'm like, no. Yes, no. I wrote Meg, and I crossed it out. I write Reynolds. I want to vote out Reynolds because I'm not going to do what I said what I was going to do. So I had to actually, I flipped my vote at the very end so they couldn't count on it, which meant it didn't tie. And that's the only way it didn't tie. Like if I had flipped, it would have tied again and we would have gone to rocks. So they were counting on me flipping, which I didn't flip. And so I made it so that Reynolds went home.
Carlos, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe your voting confessional on that second vote is you change your vote to Reynolds with the belief that Tony is flipping. I think that's, if I recall from when I watched the voting confessional, that's what Carlos says directly, like, Tony, I believe is flipping, therefore I'm going to change my vote.
That's got to be what happened.
Yeah, Carlos confirms. So that was what led him to change his vote. So one of the questions I have about this round is, Austin starts becoming close to Megan and Todd. He kind of starts filling in that Shreefer on their alliance. Was that something you were picking up on?
Yeah, I was okay with that. Like, I'm okay with him being in my group and not an Amber and Reynolds group.
And when you have that first vote, when it's 4-4, who did you believe voted with you who at the time did you think voted with you that first round?
No idea. I didn't trust anybody at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that Megan's going to vote for Reynolds, right? So, I mean, and Todd's going to vote for Reynolds. So that's the only two people that I could be sure voted with me, right?
And I don't know. Carlos is noting that one of the reasons why he was trying to draw rocks was save both Megan and Reynolds. And for him, he had immunity. So it would have been a great time to get other people to draw rocks.
Right, exactly.
So Reynolds goes home to revote 4-2. He leaves with your rice. All right, that's his parting gift. Talk to me about the fallout from this vote.
Oh my God. Well, this is the big. So Amber's really upset, right? And she has been upset for a while, like pre-Reynolds getting voted out. She's saying, if Reynolds is getting voted, I'm going to be the biggest, this and that and the other thing. And, she was upset visibly and for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I have to step back for a moment and just say, when you're tired and you're hungry and you're in these emotional circumstances, what you intend to do and say is not always what you come across doing and saying. Mm-hmm. So I absolutely want to apologize in front of everybody in the world and anybody who watches, listens to your podcast, that I did not mean to come across the way I did to Amber. And I came across, violent and, definitely very like a jackass, right, in front of her. And she didn't deserve that. It's not what I intended to do, but I absolutely believe with all my heart that's how I came across. And I really apologize wholeheartedly for that, because it's not what I wanted.
Well, I will say it ends up making for an explosive moment that successfully bans the second Facebook group. Yes. And so production has to migrate to a third group that keep live streaming for the season. So
what my intent was, she had been upset and she was having a quiet moment after the vote. She was standing there and we were a few feet apart, and I turned to her because I wanted to say, hey, I think we can work together to vote out Todd now. Let's try to pull something together. She did not want to talk to me. And she went off and I went off, and the camera only caught me going off. And I'll tell you, the intent was I wanted to, at that point, say, listen, Amber, I want to work with you. And, we talked after the game, and she says, I absolutely would have done that had you talked to me a little later, just giving her a little time and space.
So let's say you target Todd, like who would you want, because you're down to 6 people. So, you're down to 7 people. Who would you want to bring in for the Todd vote?
I think if Amber and I and Carlos and Carly probably could have gotten Todd.
I don't recall what this immunity challenge was. Do you?
No.
Okay. So I know Megan wins immunity, and you next. And so was there?
Is this the me vote?
This is the Amber vote.
Oh, this is the Amber vote.
Yeah. And so at this point, also, I think it's also come out that Carlos perhaps is the mole. So that's kind of knowledge as well now. Oh,
yeah. So now
thank you,
Carlos and I are like,
this was the stacking. This is the block stacking with your feet challenge.
Holy moly! That was wow. She did that so fast. So kudos to her for that one. Thank you, Carlos. It was stacking the blocks of your feet, and it was right there, right at tribal. It was very emotional. I sucked at that too. Chalked that up to sucking at some challenges. And I guess the vote was going to be Amber at that point, right?
Now, did you hear Carlos's name being thrown around as well?
Say it again.
Did you hear Carlos's name being thrown around for the vote as well?
No.
And you knew Carlos had an idol that he hadn't played?
I knew he had. I thought everyone knew he had an idol he hadn't played. Although I had been very good about not telling anybody else that he had an idol, although I'm sure he had told people he had an idol. But I had promised him way back at Red, and after that whole Taylor, the second vote where, I promised him I wasn't going to tell anyone, and I never told anyone he had an idol. He might have, but I never did.
Well, Carlos says you might.
I did not. After then, I never did. I was very, very good about it.
So, did you know that Carlos was going to be receiving 3 votes at the Tribal Council?
No. I mean, I just knew I wanted Amber out. I don't know who the other vote was going to be, right?
Yeah. So Amber and Carlos both play their shot in the dark. Carlos receives 3 votes, but he plays his idol. Oh, so Carlos says, "No, you actually kept your word."
Thank you.
This is probably an emoji that's just not loading. 3 votes are cast for Carlos. Austin, Todd, and I don't know who. Carly cast their vote for Carlos. You and Megan vote for Amber, and because the idol, Amber's voted out on 2 votes.
There you go.
This leads us to your first reward challenge in a while, touchy subjects. How was this for you?
All right. So this is the beginning of the end for me, right? So
yeah.
I knew. Why was everybody so pissed at me then? I don't even know why everyone was so pissed. Somebody remind us why everybody was so pissed at me at that point. But everybody was pissed at me, which is fine. Probably because of the whole Amber thing, right? But whatever, everyone's pissed at me. And so we go off to do our answers to the questions. And there's some nasty questions in there, like who doesn't deserve to be here?
Mm-hmm.
Who wouldn't you want to be friends with outside the game? There's some hurtful questions. And I knew the answers were going to be me. Mm-hmm. Because I knew at that point my vote was expendable. Nobody wanted to work with me, so it was okay to put my name down for those things, right? So we went back, and I think out of the, let's say it was 15 questions, so I win. I get 13 of them right, which is way more than anybody else got right. And so one of the questions was, who thinks they know, what's going on with the tribe, and who actually knows what's going on with the tribe, right? And so who thinks they know? Tony thinks that was the answer. Tony thinks he knows. Well, clearly I know what's going on if I'm the one who gets all the answers right. Clearly I actually did know what was going on. Sometimes I didn't, but I knew. So pretty hurtful questions. Who would you never be friends with outside the game? Tony. Who would who didn't deserve to be here? Tony. I mean, like, who doesn't deserve to be invited back to play again? Tony. I'm like, that's really hurtful, but I'm going to choose not to be hurt because I know you're just putting my name down because it's expendable right now, right? And so I just chose not to feel hurt about it.
Well, you win this challenge, and you get to take 2 people to popsicles and lemonade or something like that.
Yeah, popsicles and lemonade, and I was open to taking anybody. Carlos would not look me in the eye, but I was open to bringing him. He wouldn't look at me. Austin said, pick somebody else. I'm fine. Megan said, I'm fine too. You don't need to bring me. And so I brought Carly and Todd.
How was the experience with them?
We had a good time chatting it up, and we talked about the challenge, and we talked about, their reward, and we talked about some of the answers were like, who's in charge of the game? Megan. Who's going to win? Megan. I'm like, so I was like, so Carly, Todd, are you okay with those answers? Are you okay with everyone saying that Megan's going to win? Are you okay with everyone saying that Megan's, really running the game? Are you okay with that? And they were both like, well, Carly was much more like, no, I'm not okay with that. That's not how I want this game to end. And Todd was kind of okay with that. But not so very okay with it. I'm like, you don't want to just hand the game to her, do you? Is that your intention here? And I don't know if he was just playing along with me or was thinking about it for the first time, but much more visibly, Carly was open to, maybe we do need to get Megan out. Maybe that's what the next step is here.
So now that you're final 6, I guess what is your ideal final 3 in your mind shaping out to be? Is it still like some sort of
Carly, Austin, and me?
Okay. And so who do you think need to be the next vote?
Megan.
Okay. And at your next immunity challenge, Megan does not win. Instead, Todd wins. This is kind of you have to fill up a thing with water, they get the key, open a box, make a branch, get it something else, start a fire.
Well, I'll tell you about this one. So I was excited to do it. I had practiced fire at home with my son, and he was really super excited about seeing me try to do fire. So I wanted to try to do it. But as I'm sticking my face in the bucket and running back and forth with water in my mouth, I tell you with 100% confidence, like I had one of those top 5 moments in my life, revelation. I felt like I'm good. I'm done. Whatever it was that drove me to need to do this, either the need to be part of a group, the need to be accepted, the need for adventure, the need of approval, all of those things that drive people to play these kinds of games, I felt filled. I felt complete. I didn't feel that need anymore. And so I kind of was like happy and done and content. And so I'm running back and forth, sort of half-assed, putting the water, finishing the challenge. I go to open my key. Megan's clearly very frustrated that she can't get hers open because her key's not working. I felt bad. I got mine open. I started working on my stick, and people. Megan can't get her box open still, so I'm like, the person who actually can make fire is stuck right now behind me, and I'm building my stick, and I'm like almost ready, almost done to go get the key. I'm like, I actually might be able to pull this one out. But I'm definitely in the back, right? And just as I'm like tying the last knot that I felt like I was going to have a good thing, Todd wins. So Todd won, which was fine because like I said, I was emotionally happy, content, and done.
So talk to me about the strategy for this round.
At first, I thought it was an easy Carlos. Megan looks at me and goes, Carlos, right? I'm like, yeah, Carlos. So I thought it was an easy Carlos. But then Todd comes to me and says, Tony, you need to beg for your life at this point. So I'm like, okay, well, if you don't want me to go and Carly doesn't want me to go and Austin doesn't want me to go, why am I going? Like, I don't understand why. Like, what's the point? Like, so a couple of those people must have been playing lip service to me while we were negotiating, right? I don't know which ones were giving lip service and which ones were not, but I went. It was my turn to go.
Did anyone give you reasons for why they were voting you out?
Yeah, Megan gave me the impression that if I'm still there, people are going to want to bring me to the end, and that leaves less space for her. And I felt like that's valid. No malice, wasn't upset. I was ready at that point to go. I was kind of like, I'd love to have one last night here. I always kind of thought it'd be super cool to wake up the last morning, but I was good. I was ready to go.
So were you hoping that, like, did you think anyone was voting with you when you were writing Carlos's name down?
Not really, no.
So were you surprised that someone else did write Carlos's name down?
I was not surprised, but I don't think that she... I don't know why she wrote Carlos's name down. I don't know.
So Carly votes with you against Carlos. You receive the other votes. Carly also plays her idol for herself because it's the last time Aslan you played.
Which could have been my idol had I flipped over the boards.
I mean, you play it here, right? If you find it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so Carly deprived you of a spot in the final 5, and you go out in 6th place.
Yeah. Totally content.
Talk to me about your being on the jury for the next day.
So that night, Sharif, like right away, Sharif, welcomes me. He's been drinking all day. Super incredible guy. Cannot tell you how much I appreciate that friendship. He brought me in. I was nervous about facing up to Amber, and I think for a little while we didn't have a conversation. But when we had a conversation, I thought it went really well. Because I felt awkward about our interaction, right? And so, but I think the conversation went well, and clearly both of us have, at least I think, moved past, that interaction that happened in the game.
looking at the final five, who were you rooting to win or see at the end?
I wanted Austin to win.
Mm-hmm.
That's like it. That's all I wanted.
I mean, so if Austin doesn't make it, was there anyone else who was a contender for you, or are you pretty open beyond that?
I was open beyond that. I think that it would have been like, I don't think I would have voted for Carlos to win it, because I think I was emotionally upset about the flipping and the hat, and how I'd been honest with him and faithful to him the whole time, and he had been, dishonest with me the whole time. And so it's kind of hard to get over that, especially since my honesty had been called into play the whole game, when he was being dishonest the whole time. That was hard for me. So I think it would have been a better person to not vote for him if he was in the final. If he'd been in the final against Megan and Carly, it would have been very difficult to, because I would have wanted to vote for Carly. Carly made me want to vote for her. So I was struggling over voting for Megan or Austin. And I sat in my head for a while and I said, why do I want to vote for this one? Why do I want to vote for that one? Okay, in my head, I have voted for Megan. How do I feel about that? And I struggled with those feelings. I said, okay, I voted for Austin. How do I feel about that? And I said, I feel like at the end of the day, Austin has earned my vote because he's making me want to vote for him. I get to vote for whoever I want to vote for. Did he play the game as hard and as obvious and as long as Megan did? Probably. I wasn't there for his whole game. Did she maybe make more moves and have more control of the game? Yes. But I wanted to vote for him. And I think that means a lot in this game, is that because it's a relationship game. And when we were in the finals, Megan did take a moment, and I honestly believe her when she says that I don't know if she used the word struggle, so I apologize if it's not the right word, but making relationships is not her forte. So she made relationships with the people that she felt like it counted. Again, maybe I'm not stating her words correctly, but that's what I remember hearing, right? And to me, part of the game is making people want to vote for you at the end. And so having those relationships with those people who are not your building blocks in the game, they're still your vote at the end. And that is so very important. And that's how Austin earned my vote, because he made me want to. He made me want to give him the win.
When you give your jury speech, we already talked a little bit how you were joking to Megan that you stole my boyfriend, you stole Sharif for me. With Austin, it's a little bit more emotional.
Yeah. I've wronged him I used him emotionally, and that's something that people can probably have a really hard time getting over. I hope that, and he said, no harm, and that we're good. And I hope that's true. I want that to be true, because he's such a good person. I really hurt him, and that is hard for me to reconcile with myself. That, because beyond anything, I'm a kind person. To a fault, I'm a kind person, and I did something terribly unkind, and that hurt me to the core. And so I needed to let everybody know that how badly I felt. I know, all good. I love you too.
So when we talked about coming in this game, you mentioned two things I want to do. I want people not think me as a nice a person, and I want to lie more because I'm worried that people will be worried about me as a jury at the end. Do you feel like for your play style, you found a sweet spot of what you like to do? Or do you think hey, maybe was there overcorrection this season? If I did play a third time, I would do something a little bit different?
A little overcorrection. Yes. I think some things I would do differently. Again, I don't want to change anything about my game because I love where I ended. But I think when Carlos show, when I saw Carlos had the idol before he told me he had the idol, I think I needed to pause and not say anything to Sharif right away, because there was no need to say anything yet. So a little bit more pausing and waiting for the right time to do things. Same thing with the interaction with Amber. Like, if I had just paused and waited, I could have had that conversation and have it work out better if I just waited a little bit. So some of the actions were the right things to do. I just need better timing of those actions.
Well, you end up casting your vote for Austin, and Austin wins over Megan 5-3-0. Did you think going into that vote that one had one Megan or Todd or Austin had one over the other, or were you predicting it was going to be a very tight vote?
I thought it was going to be tight. So when we had there was a debrief of some sorts, whatever they called it, right? A round table?
Jury speaks.
Yeah, whatever that was, right? So this is like when the jury was like having a round table. We had some pizza and we're talking it through. Before that, I thought it was a slam dunk for Austin. Then during that, I kind of began to understand maybe it's closer and that maybe Megan could pull it out. So I was surprised. I mean, wasn't surprised completely, but when I heard that Skylar's vote got pulled, then I was really like, oh my gosh, it could be super close. What's going to be it was nail biter for me. Like, I did not know who was going to win.
Well, how was the post game for you?
Post game was fun. Obviously seeing Austin so elated and happy was a lot of fun. Getting to download with some of the people that I hadn't been able to download with was a lot of fun. Again, I made nice with some people that I probably had wronged during the game, and it's all good. So I feel like Reelfoot family is put back together again.
So is there anything else about your season that you want to bring up and talk about that we haven't had a chance to?
Let's see about my whole season. Let's see. Parker did a great job. He had a lot of work to do, and I am very, very appreciative of all of the time and energy and effort that he put into it, because he did a lot of it alone. I did remind him at one point during the game that a strong leader knows when to ask for help and allow people to help him. I hope he heard that bullet point. But he deserves 1,000 thank yous for all of the work that he did to put together, because he did this out of love for, the people for the alumni, right? He did this out of love for us, not out of anything that he was doing for himself. So this was a huge effort, for us, for the alumni. They didn't have to do this. They could have just moved on and had done nothing this year and moved on to season 11 being, new people next year. Right. So that huge shout out to him for that. People that I wanted to spend more time with and play with more, Clark and Brent, I want them both to get another season. Frank, I never saw Blue. I never saw your furniture. Hopefully I get to see some of it. Sharif, thank you for everything, for all of those moments that you held me up when I was going crazy, or I held you up when you were going crazy. I felt like, it was a great bond between the two of us. I could go on and on about everybody, but I don't think that's what this is for. So.
You mentioned at the start of the podcast last time that you felt dissatisfied with your experience in Callipin's Revenge, that you felt like when you got voted out, you hadn't played. Yeah. And I don't get the sense that you feel that I feel like you're walking away from this season with a lot more contentment in that you had played. Is that correct?
Yeah. I don't need to do this again. I have played. I had fun. I made mistakes, but I did it at 120%, and that was not my personality out there. That was some other guy, because it was things that I would never in a million years imagine myself doing. I came away playing hard, having fun, having the time of my life, getting everything out of it that I wanted out of it.
Do you have any takeaways about yourself that you feel like you learned from this game?
Takeaways about myself.
Yeah.
As I said, that contentment, that need for recognition, the need for belonging, that whole need to be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. I accept myself. I'm very happy with who I am, and people can like me or not like me, or want me to be a part of the group or not. I'm thrilled to be a part of whatever people want to do and have fun. But if I don't need people that don't need me, and I'm much happier in life. That moment of contentment was winning for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, as we close out here, I'd like to ask you some kind of rapid fire questions, just like, what's the first thing that pops to your mind?
All right.
So, from your original season, Calvin's Revenge, who still hasn't finished business?
Oh God, unfinished business from the. I'm going to go with Rob.
From your current season, who still hasn't finished business?
My current Adam.
What's your favorite challenge?
My favorite challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I had the most fun of this season or any season. Does it matter?
This season.
Oh God. My favorite challenge wasn't any of the. Oh, no, it was. It was the crate one, holding up the crate for 2 hours with Carlos. That was fun.
What was your favorite camp life moment?
I didn't get to remember to tell you this. All right. So one night we're at Merge Camp, and I'm laying there, and the under the tarp crew is screaming. They're like, ah, like a bunch of like little kids screaming. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, go get Todd. I'm like, what do we need Todd for? There's a spider. I'm like, oh my God, it's like my Girl Scouts, because I used to be a Girl Scout leader. I'm like, what? Someone give me a shoe. So I grab my shoe. I walk over. I'm like, where? There was a spider like this big, like on the tree that they're all under. I'm like, whap. Kill the spider, falls to the ground. They're like, there's another one right next to it. There's another one. I'm like, where? And there was seriously another one like this big right next to it. I'm like, whap. Spider's dead. I'm like, all right, I'm done. Going back to sleep. That was my favorite camp life moment.
These are things I try not to think about when I sleep outside of what is crawling on me as I sleep. I just don't want to know.
That's why I've changed my name to Spider Slayer.
Who do you wish you had a chance to work with this season but didn't?
That I never got a chance to work with?
Or, didn't work as well as you wish you had?
I think I would have loved to spend more time in working with May.
Mm-hmm.
She was somebody I feel like we never got a chance to move forward together.
Who surprised you the most out there?
Carly.
What was your lowest moment in the game?
My lowest moment was my anxiety attack.
What was your highest moment?
Winning my way into the merge.
Who's your favorite tribe handler?
Trevor.
Shot in the dark. Love it? Hate it?
Oh, wait. I got to go back. It was Jeff.
Sorry, Trevor. You've been supplanted by Jeff.
Yeah, it was Jeff.
Shot in the dark. Love it or hate it?
Love it.
Would you play another game in the future?
If they want me, I'll play.
Would you play a non-Reelfoot game?
Yeah, definitely.
You already kind of stole this, but you did a list of shout outs. So is there anyone else that you want to shout out or mention as we conclude here?
I feel like I could go through a list of everybody, so it wouldn't be fair to give any more shout outs except Skylar. And just give everybody my love. Thank you very much for a really good game.
Yeah. Tony, I just want to say thank you so much for coming back for part 2 of your deep dive, and I really appreciate you have a chance to share with me your game. And I look forward to, now that you mentioned you're not listening or watching anyone else's before you do your own, so now you can go out and hear what they have to say.
I'm still not going to listen. Oh, Lydia,
really?
Lydia. Shout out, Lydia.
I mean, so if Lydia does one, will you listen to that one?
Sorry, I'll listen to Lydia's. I promise.
Okay, there you go. We have a promise, Lydia. That means we have to make it happen. All right. Well, Tony, I think that's all I have. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And there will be more in the near future. I think next on the docket, we have a duo of Amber Reynolds, because they are inseparable.
Excellent.
So no clue how that one will go. I'm sure it will be quite entertaining. Stay tuned and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ed.